Here are top 10 stories that you won't believe are real. Now, we always knew that strange things happen in this world, but I bet you didn't know things as strange as the real life stories that I'm about to tell you. So without further ado, here are the top 5 stories that you won't believe are real. Number 1, Mike the Headless Chicken. One fine evening on September 10th, 1945, the Olsons wanted to have chicken for dinner. So Lloyd Olson went out to the yard to pick up one of the chickens he and his mother-in-law reared. The chicken was almost 6 months old, and it was named Mike, and for some reason, Olson botched the task of lopping off the chicken's head, missing the jugular vein, one ear, and most of Mike's brainstem by a hair's breadth. And that was how Mike survived what was supposed to be his execution. Of course though, life without a head was a little different for Mike, but he was still able to do normal chicken stuff for the most part. He could balance on a perch, he could even walk too. He also managed to be able to peck at his food fairly well, and crow too. Since Mike chose not to die, the Olsen decided to take care of the bird, who went on to become a star. At the height of Mike's career, he earned about $4,500 per month, which translates to about $52,156 right now. The chicken eventually died a year later from choking on a kernel of corn. Ingrid the Clairvoyant Dog. Now, a person on Reddit tells a story of how her sister's dog saved the little girl's life. Apparently, the sister had gone on vacation and left her dog, whom they called Ingrid, in her sister's care. One afternoon, the sister who's babysitting Ingrid takes the dog out for an afternoon walk. And by the way, this is a large city with many row homes and busy streets. Kids would often have to play on the sidewalk since most homes didn't have a yard. While on the walk just a few meters ahead of Ingrid was a little girl playing with a rubber ball. And as the story goes, a bus was coming down the street from a distance, but wasn't quite close yet. Ingrid's babysitter, whom was the sister at the time, could hear all of this, but it spaced out at the moment, and so she wasn't really present. Suddenly, Ingrid, who was normally well behaved, started to freak out, barking and pulling on her leash vigorously. When Ingrid's sister looked up, it turned out the girl was chasing her ball down the street when, unknown to her, a bus was coming down the street at full speed. The bus wasn't able to see the kid because there was a line of parked cars blocking the driver's view. Ingrid kept barking as her sister started to yell at the little girl too. At the last possible second, the girl stopped to look at Ingrid and her sister, and the very next second, there's a loud pop coming from the bus running over the little girl's ball. Immediately afterwards, Ingrid stops barking and goes back to being her calm self. The mother of the girl, who had heard the yelling and the pop sound, ran out of the house, expecting to see the worst. But thankfully, her child was alive, and all thanks to Ingrid the dog. Number 3. Saved by the fire ants. While some of us do not care for meeting our death a second before the time, some others live for the thrill that comes from living on the edge. Joan Murray belonged to the latter group. At the age of 47, Murray was still an active skydiver, and on September 25, 1999, she decided to do some skydiving. What she didn't know, however, was that her parachute would fail to deploy, as would her secondary parachute. Of course, on the extremely rare occasions that such things happen, the end is hardly anything less than fatal. Naturally, Murray probably thought that the day was her last, as the ground seemed to be racing toward her. But thankfully, such a thing as fire ants exist. Plummeting at 80 miles an hour, Murray crashed into a bed of fire ants, who immediately went to town on her unconscious body from the second she landed. Turns out this was Murray's saving grace. According to the doctors, the fire ant stings on Murray's unconscious body shocked her heart back into beating and triggered her nerves back to life. And thus Murray's body was preserved until she was eventually taken to the hospital. Murray would remain in coma for 2 weeks and be operated on several times. But in the end, all things were perfect and she would survive. Like in a movie, a Redditor tells a story of how she met a guy that she'd eventually date on her way back from college. She had taken the Chinatown bus and sat next to this guy. Not unusually though, the two didn't talk to each other for the whole way. 4 months later, the lady is on her way to school again, after coming home from the weekend. A miracle of miracles, she is sitting next to the same stranger that she met the last time she came home. This time, they got to talk a little bit. It turns out her star-crossed seat partner had a girlfriend who lived in the city, so he took the bus to go visit her sometimes. The conversation ended there, and both went their separate ways. A year after that, the lady caught the subway on her way home from work, and wouldn't you know it, the person beside her was the same random guy, for the 3rd time now. So he looks up at her and says something cheesy about the universe giving them a sign, on the spur of the moment, to give it a go and start dating. However, the relationship would only last a year, as the Redditor had to return to her home city. It was a mutual breakup though, so no one was hurt. Number 5. Not so bird-brained. A young man tells a story of when he was 5 and had just moved into a new house with his parents. As his mom unpacked stuff, he went to play like most 5-year-olds do, but something soon caught his attention. There was this recessed light under the eaves outside the building, and the young boy caught a bird in one of the light fixtures trying to unscrew a bulb. The bird was probably trying to make a nest there, but no one was sure, and this was fall. Anyways, it was intriguing for the young boy, who watched the bird use his wings, feet, and body to work the bulb and turn it around. Excited, the boy called for his mom's attention several times, but was each time met with the same response. Birds cannot unscrew light bulbs. Anyways, the bird unscrewed the light bulb successfully, even though the bulb flipped upside down, and sadly the bird got itself electrocuted afterwards. When the boy's dad got back, the boy showed him the light and the dead bird. The boy's dad fixed the bulb, took care of the bird's body, and wished that he had seen the bird unscrewing the light bulb himself as well. What are your thoughts on these strange and mysterious stories? Tell me in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like.